Hello, fellow YouTubers and further as creators. I can't see myself, but I believe it's still working because the last video did that too. This is for YouTube too. This is the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. So help me the identity that is all things at once. That everything is not while they are to an extent. Even, for example, where we have that small, where anything is that is actually, even if something is made up, has the only increasing value of its identity of relationship to itself, too. A part of how we could discern this. But so district attorneys' offices have roles since founding with criminally foreign influence fact treatment nature quality slash qualities aspect slash aspects in nature as criminal insidiousness slash hyper criminal insidiousness. I'm not even a lawyer, but lawyers all sides of criminal and civil cases and the names of the three branches of government and all names associated like locations, like state of Connecticut judicial branch offices and the state of Connecticut corrections offices. They're involved with wire crime acts and methods and with readings of statutes by lawyers of the F.B.I. and of the Wethersfield police involved with these wire crime methods, falsified police reports, attaching kids to foreign and domestic fake conversations with people that they never had conversations with, like a Leahy family. A whole bunch of people tied to them, too, had roles planted together on my street since I was a kid. They've been attaching me to fake doctors, ties to doctors when I was a kid, attaching me and other people to fake conversations with ourselves and everyone around us about the World Trade Center, too. See, people will lie at locations because everyone came through campuses, too. We had other communicated for James Madison and for George Washington, where we were supposed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. And we were supposed to be honest about how James Madison's plan and the founders behind him got George Washington to really use James Madison's plan. And then they went and counter-extorted at 13 locations to force the other founders. And there was slavery entrenched north and south, not for our founders. All exceptions, exception nature that appear to demonstrate other, have demonstrations of the same things. Vaccines, but you guys are preventing mandated law in ways that are reliant upon criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents and of the sciences, like American history, having been pretended other too, which has screened all the bodies individually grouped and together. And this is referring to bodies like criminal enterprises that are still overtly slash insidiously, like terrorists that are still overtly slash insidiously being and having been grouped wrong to keep the difference, for example, and to keep the difference between what really furthers criminal insidiousness, criminal foreign influences the most, being blamed, being demonstrated by nature, but those natural demonstrations are effectively being and haven't been used to blame on other things, others, ourselves. The real causes of the worst negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, being the breaching method that came from semi-ancient times, that which had slavery entrenched north and south, and the suburbs designed tactically denatured before America's founders were born. This is relative because those suburbs in Russia look exactly the same, and this is designed to cause hunger and thirst to be through systems tactical ulterior from one that is free. And so we have the nature of practical thought and reason. For example, not to use Immanuel Kant's, not to use as Immanuel Kant's phrase or alone, but as nature, because nature is hyper additionally being, in other words, WFSB attached me to fake and changed words. I mean, faked conversations with themselves and with others, including with the doctors, as ones I caught with the principal child abusers campus, and roles that further I recorded them with, pretending other was recorded, and with some untimely deaths and murders that were involved at the same time intercities. These are also people tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, and people associated with the depositions of them, involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, leaders of campuses, judges, prosecutors, people that work with courts, lawyers, probably even people with a timed ad placements. And Aiello's Kitchen is one of the ones involved with the Joe DeMoro, and people from my grammar school. I never had a class with Joe Aiello in my life. One time I was on a campus, they take a picture like after he graduated to make a fake exception, because that's one of the things that they do. We're a whole bunch of different countries, and our own have collusion/S with difference racketeering, worse than war crimes. Not lawyer, not peace form, not criminal. We have black pupils, white survive. You don't leave this out. When it comes to, for example, the cities, the suburbs were designed for torture and extortion. In fact, treating nature slavery of names A through Z, using differences A through Z that are natural, tactical, ulterior. So the timing also of this, because the FBI has Joshua Julian as one of the people involved with home break-ins, per people recorded, confessed, tied to him, and demonstrated. Also on the Facebook page of the principal child abuser. Facebook leadership themselves completely on their own. They have roles with this, recorded, and their names involved, and with the ad placements too, further. And then further, the Wethersfield police do, and the courts do, and their family members, all tied to the same house/S wire crimes with them since they were kids. Other natures of organized crime at the same time, and use/S of that. That's why the Ray Kalola, whoever that was, even if that was one of the Ray Kalolas that lives near me, brought up psychedelics. They're sequence shifting. These are people that work at Hartford Hospital with the military too, with the drugs and medicines crimes, with kids, attaching kids to fake conversations, and their family members, fake conversations with doctors. Then about that, then they're trying to make mistakes with all natures of investigations. Investigators have been used remotely, criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence since before America's founders were born, since before modern countries' leaders were born, but since before modern religious messengers had to do damage control, because the syntax styles are forced by nature. As liars needing to pretend they're not liars. And as the value of that, we're supposed to be led by the hyper-invisible, and how it uses questions. Questions that, since we're little kids, are being used to cover up collusions, to measure and maintain. They're going to leave out details. Increasingly tied to people who stack fake things in kids' databases and use the mixture between the name adult or kids. They have a whole bunch of different countries there that the locations, areas, and states. Same people pretend to be against leaking stuff. That's one of the things they're hiding. Just the means to be able to change subjects and lie about things, because there are a whole bunch of different countries and they don't want to give away how they have. For example, they've been speaking about crimes together, and they have roles of training people on and off campuses. A whole bunch of different countries. They can't even get difference right. We have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time, black people. Then they have to pretend it's personal. The news pretends it's personal. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center too, the World Trade Center attack. And they lied about the outcome of legal cases. And they did this with others. And Wethersfield police confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed their influence to switch names, falsify police reports. The courts know this too, where and how also their lawyers have criminally foreign influenced readings of statutes that they recorded themselves and were shown they need to hide that with their head that was actually simultaneously recorded. And as collusion / S, again, with juxtaposed distinct natures of organized crime, private criminal enterprises, overt ones, and insidiousness of logic, styles, and natures A through Z. You guys change what we say. You guys pretend not to understand what people say. So that's why it's important to fix the fake conversations with me. Keep it simple. I owe you. I owe. No, I'm not. In other words, I don't owe anyone to explain anything about that, and I'm not trying to. And you guys want to make things go before courts that are involved also with the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices preventing writing and pretending otherwise. You guys are stacking more fake things and arrays of fake things. So they have readings of statutes that give the benefit of the doubt at the last second to people based on their, this person has this degree, etc. Those degrees are still too tactically delusions wrought while criminally foreign influence. Fact, true nature, quality aspects of nature. So you have readings of statutes that are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought. It's one of the things our founders communicated for us to understand. And also the difference between communications and what is said. Especially because of how they're still fake. This breaching method uses names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. The lawyers, the family members of them, of the same thing with the judges, prosecutors, their family members. Ones of the news, time collusion / S, hide that, switch sequence, pretend this. Leave out, leave out exception age of black people. Meanwhile, New York City, distinctly from Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford, Connecticut describes itself to an extent as the breaching method influenced and only allowed them to be able to, and self-value. So they use that remotely as a suburban / urban city. So this breaching method employed before America's founders were born. The suburbs tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and nature. Those subsequently involved with and as streams of court going into superior courts each day, backups with all nations of courts and their state offices, increasingly names conjunctive and adjacent to that, including as lineage or family member. All locations / S has that and the difference of strangers used where they go back and forth on cases as names, leaving out those collusions originally and still employed. That's what we're observing when people are asked, what are Jim Crow laws about? Or when people are asking it. And so we're going to have to change because to understand the answer. Jim Crow laws with everything else is about criminally foreign influence, readings of statutes and the precedence roles. With what will cause that and other negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and it effectively employed nature's demonstrations of them. Instead, blamed on other things, others themselves, and sustained that until it was true. But mixed with way worse names, including criminal enterprises. Nature itself shows us the needs to discern also the hyper criminally foreign influence. And use / S of names and descriptions of motivations of others or of themselves is reported being and having been used. So in other words, the only defenses to people are often also collusion / S. Because again, other things, others ourselves, were our blame to keep the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like slavery. The same thing witch trials are about, and where it is still manifest, where witch trials and slavery were our blamed on other things, others ourselves, exactly the way the breaching method employed them to be, black pupils. We have an unnatural system with the assignment / S of black and white. of why we have black pupils and whites of eyes, and the revelations from here. Discern and discernible. Please learn. So please, and WTNH also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have people, I never tried to call them on the phone either to have them fix it. I tried to call on the phone, Fox Connecticut News and WFSB, because I know other ways about it on next to WTNH too, but next to WFSB and next to Fox Connecticut News are names also involved with the wire crime acts and methods there. And the method of pretending it's personal rather than just fix it, which would show it. Fix it, please. Fix the fake conversation. Who disbelieves, and get the interbranch on paper. And please say sorry to Judge Napolitano, because you guys have the Facebook page of the Bryn Superior Court, also involved with the Facebook pages of the campuses with some KKK black themed and Confederate flag themed. I don't know, people involved with this, whether it's leaking, it's the foreign and domestic military. They want to have, in other words, you guys need to get on paper because you're going to see how they've been keeping, they made people forced to have conversations with other or silence and use whatever, right, to keep the foreign names involved with those same bodies and the people doing that. You're going to see how next to Central Connecticut State University, even when they record real things like in conversations, the investigators on off Hartford courts and the Bryn Superior courts, they had rolls of crime scenes and murder spots and body dumping spots. Even if some or any of it was made up, all kinds of natures of drugs and medicines crimes, as the family members too. Increasingly, the family members of the courts, like ones with the name Della Fera and Scalora. In other words, I don't know the Scalora, but he's also involved with the police switching and forging names and predicate acts on my street, and people involved with criminal enterprises and on off the World Trade Center and the spots next to it, like the court next to it, as people involved with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and in their sources, all planting evidences together. Same time with the news to keep people, lied about. To keep also collusion with cyber police and their family members. Pakistan too. Please, Pakistan, I'll show you guys how they're playing you guys and everyone to keep the hyper foreign, keeping criminally foreign influence locations, areas, and states, and people pretending other, fake sides and difference. So these are also all these countries involved with Hartford Hospital and they have an Institute of Living involved with a whole bunch of people involved with the name Collusion and Wethersfield police with federal evidences crimes, drugs and medicines crimes, and social media. So they have more upskirt pictures with a principal upskirt nature involved with the untimely deaths and other natures of organized crime. I caught him with the kids, some of the parents involved. And as the ones locking themselves, pretending other, repeating fake things about me. Get them on paper, one name in sequence, because half of them never had a conversation with me in their life. You'll see. Vaccines. I can just think.